Okay, can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me on the broadcast? Can everybody hear me? Okay. All right. Yeah. All right, I'm back. We had a little issue. Well, like I was saying, I'm going to have to recap the things I've been saying because I was talking into the phone and not realizing I was talking into a mute phone. All right? So, again, I said that not just because somebody said to me, Sister Sandera said to me that, should I have put black people up there instead of just people? I said, no, it's not just so-called black people that are fading from the scene. It's white people and all humans, within the human race are fading from the scene, a huge population. I said that are slated for consolidation and consumption and consolidation into one race. I said, whenever you see people at a height, wherever there's going to be a war, whether it's First World War, Second World War, Third World War, after wars happen, change takes place. We come into a new era. Revolutionary war, I don't care what kind of war it is, a new way of life or a new way of thought, and the people comes into place. So the fuse has been lit. This is why you're seeing all these things take place within society. You're seeing all these things, police shootings more and more. The racial thing is being talked back up again because we're in the final conflict of that now. We're in the final conflict. So you have to see all of this. All right? You have to see all of this. All right? All this has to take place. All this has to take place in this day and time because, again, change is on the horizon. Before things change, things have to get worse. Our people, when I say the bright race, the almond race, separate from the human race, we must make sure that we are not caught up in the chaos and confusion of this fading process. It's the same way as when you saw in the Avengers movie when the god Thanos, which is really Theos or God, another name is saying Theos or God, came about and he started erasing the people off of the planet and erasing the Avengers. And basically he had the power over life and death, which happens by way of evolution, because evolution, which is controlled by Amen, right? Meaning that the one who decides who lives and who dies, who continues on, or selective breeding, right? Selective evolution, selective engineering. Those who are able to extend and evolve, right? Those are the ones who are going to extend and evolve. You don't see these people getting upset. You don't see these people getting excited. You don't see these people getting caught up in the chaos and confusion of things that are going on here, the whole racial thing, because we've been through this before. We've seen it. Whenever you see stuff like this taking place, you know that the change is on the horizon. Like I said, everything you've seen, right, black, white, when you see the so-called white race out here, they're going back into their whole racial thing and whatnot because they know that it's a sign of the end for them. Along with the black race, the whole black and white thing is playing out. It's playing itself out. It's playing itself out, and you got a lot of people, like I said, who don't really want to see it go. They got vested interest in the whole thing of keeping everything as it is, but it's not going to stay the way it is. It's not. Then you got others on the other side who want to see things evolve into something. I happen to be one of those people that want to see the evolution take place. And if fading away old mentalities and people has to, if that has to take place in order for the evolution to take place, then that's fine. That is evolving. You're going to see people fading away. You're going to see people who, at one point in time you thought had something great to say, something life-changing to say. Their words are going to become less and less potent. They're going to start to become weak. The people that you look to are going to, and the images of these people and the things they have to say are going to become weaker and weaker and weaker. Why? Because they're going to fade from the scene. That's black, white, and everything in between. They're going to start to fade from the scene, right? They're going to pass away, right? Their words are going to have less and less influence on the masses. right? Like if you ever notice, like a lot of these musical artists are passing away, right? A whole new era is coming in. These people are passing out. That always happens. That's natural evolution. The people that you look to, the people with the pop icons and things like that you look to, now it just seems like nobody even care about what they think. They like yesterday's news. These people are fading away from the mindset of the public, of the masses, and their images are fading away. And the birth of new or next level images are being raised. They're being raised. That's a natural evolution. That's why I tell my people, don't get caught up in this human melee. Don't get caught up in the racial thing. Don't get caught up in the black and white thing. Though I mention the black and white thing, though I mention it, right, and you got a lot of so-called black people who are vested in that whole racial thing. I learned this, and I saw this in the movie Black Klansman. I mentioned that earlier when the phone was on mute. Me and Sister Sandera went to go see Black Klansman. And, it was a good movie, but it just read like a lot of black and white rhetoric, right? The whole black power thing just seems so phony, the whole Afro thing and power to the people and right on. It just all seems so phony and dated, and it, but back then in the 70s, it looked so real. And, back then it looked so real, but as you are starting to evolve and when you move forward, you start to see things for what they are. They start to look even phonier and phonier. Same thing with the white power thing, the white supremacy thing, and the KKK and all the other stuff. It just looks phony. It starts to look phonier and phonier. As you are evolving and people are starting to fade from the scene mentally and physically, you start to really, and because what happens is, as we're being extended, time is being extended, we're moving into higher dimensions, these ideas, these people are starting to be stretched further and further out. And when you stretch something further and further out and it does not have the elasticity of growth and the elasticity of continuation, it starts to come apart. And you start to see that these ideas that were presented to us, this racial thing, black and white, and us thinking that we're supposed to be against these people, or that we're not supposed to be for ourselves. And more you keep hearing it, more and more it becomes weaker and weaker, and then you start to see that this whole black and white thing works off of each other. You see it for what it is. You see it as a system of codependency. It becomes a system of codependency. This whole black and white thing. And that's why I saw it as. Because Spike Lee in the movie Black Klansman, he kept running the whole white racist thing, right? He kept running the whole white racist thing, the Ku Klux Klan and all that, next to the black people and they thing. Notice he kept doing that. He kept running it side by side. Why do you think he was doing that? Ross and Sandera sitting here with me now. Why do you think Spike Lee kept running the whole thing side by side? The black people, black power, black revolution. Then they brought this old coon Harry Belafonte out. At the end, they rolled his ass out. Right, he started talking about black people and here's the same black man, he married to a white woman. You know what I mean? But he talking about this black nonsense, right? And him black, and he goes black power. And I'm like, yeah, okay, Harry Belafonte. Your daughter married to a white man, but you talking about black power. You start to see that it's stuff, and then at the end, and let me just say, the movie was a good movie. Right, the movie was a good movie. I'm not gonna front. It was a good movie if you let yourself be entertained by it. It had some funny moments and whatnot. Denzel Washington, I'll say this about his son John David Washington. That man sounds just like his father. I mean, unmistakably, he sounds just like his father. He sounds just like his father, and he looked like his mother. But he got his father's eyes. But and he had the afro thing on, and the afro just looked so fake and phony, right? And it remind me of these Negroes today, these coon-fro Negroes today who talk all this, yeah, bro, and yeah, bro this, and yeah, bro, they wearing the fro. It just seemed like it just seems really contrived and don't seem like it's really from the soul. Even them people back in the 70s, they didn't really seem like they were really, really from the soul. It was just like a caricature of what they think being black is, like what Spike Lee did in the movie. It was a caricature, and like I said, it was like some characterization, just like with the Klan thing was some characterization, right? Just like a mock-up, right? Some character nonsense, nothing that was really real. You understand? Nothing that's real. And that's how he played it side by side and you do stuff like this because And why you could see why they gave Spike Lee money for a movie like this is because that whole thing is starting to fade away. And you got the elites who want to try and milk this thing as long as they can milk it, this whole black and white thing, right? This whole black and white thing, they want to milk it as long as they can, this whole us against them and them against us and, you know, and this, that, and the third. They want to milk it, right? It's fading away. And like I said, the people with their religions, they're starting to fade away. They're fading away. The people in the churches are fading away. The people in the mosque, temple, and it's given, and, you know, basically they're fading away because a rise in degeneracy is taking place. A rise in degeneracy. That's why, like I said, the traditional things in religion are fading away. Now you got homosexuals in the church. You got gay reverend openly. Even though you always had that, but now it's open now. You know, it's open, right? Because when you stretch something out, when you extend something, all things come out. Once you stretch it out and spread it out, and you try to extend it, all things that was hidden in the closet come out when you bring it out. As you are extending it outward, everything comes out. Why they say everything in darkness will come to light? Because the light represents extension into the brightness or toward the brightness. The light represents extension. Extension, once the light hits it, it extends, and it extends into the brightness, and the brightness fades away into something totally up and something else. It fades into something else. It brings it into the future, and it starts to dissipate into something else. Right? It fades it into something else. And this is what you're seeing right now. Like I said, this is why you're seeing the height of that. When you're seeing these, like I said, these people supporting Donald Trump and the whole racial thing, they coming back with the whole racial thing and white America, that's their last stand. It's their last stand. They grasping for dear life. People in religion, they doing the same thing. Like this guy in the pastor in the church in Detroit. I think his name is I forget what Jackson. It is. He up there asking for donations. Come on, everybody give $1,000 in his damn church, and then people flip down, start fighting in the church because he asked for that money. That's going to start happening. Stuff is going to be expanded and exposed for what it is. All of it is going to be expanded and exposed for what it really is. Right? It's going to be spread thin. And like I tell my people, we don't fit within the whole black thing. We're not trying to fit within there. We are the bright race. We are the extended race. We don't fit with the black race. We're not in that limitation because the black race is fading away. Right along with the white race. They fading away. We can't be part of that fade. We're going to continue as the bright race. We're going to continue. And like I said, you'll see the ones of your family members start to fade away. They live in a world of yesterday where these things mattered, where these same old ideas and ways of thinking mattered. We moving on to the next level. And in their mindset, there is no next level. They're going to be talking about black and white, or they would like to talk about black and white for the next 20, 30, 40 years and whatnot. But like I said, these things fade. And like I said, it's not fooling nobody because like I said, you start to see that these people need this to depend upon. The people on the black side and the white side, they need this whole racial thing to depend upon. Like the people in the church, they need Christ and all this stuff to continue going. They need Allah and all this stuff that's of the old world. They need to keep it going, but it's not going to continue. It has run its course. And when something has run its course, when it does not stand the test of time, it will fade away. And it will be joined on to something else. It will dissipate and will become smaller and be joined on to something else. And this is what we're seeing. This is what we've seen. You know, when I'm sitting up here watching the movie, The Black Klansman, and, you know, like I said, the ideas, like I said, like, I'm going to give you a good example of this. When I used to look at Spike Lee movies, right, I used to think these are the hottest movies ever, you know, Spike Lee, the black man, blah, blah, blah. And then, but as you start seeing more and more and looking at his movies, you look back at it, and you say to yourself, you thought the things that you thought was the coolest thing, the flyest thing, whatever the case may be, you see how lame it really is, how dated it really is, how limited in that time and in that space it is, because the true things that are powerful are the timeless things. The true things that are powerful are the timeless things. That's why I always say I got big respect for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the old Nation of Islam, which he was the head of, not this new Nation of Islam, but the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, what he put forward. That's why his image is going to be timeless. Big respect for the Nuwapians when Dr. York was out, because the things he put through were timeless. And we, as the Mentalians, are here to be that talentless people, not a people that's caught in that era or in that outdated frame, because black people and white people too, humans, tend to be raised on fads. They tend to be raised on fads. And fads sound just like fades. Fads sound just like fades. You understand? When you are raised on a fad, you will eventually fade. Right? When you are raised on a fad, you will eventually fade away. Yeah, like I said, I apologize to you all. I was running late because me and Ross and we came back from seeing a Black Klansman. So I was, I played music in the beginning, and I forgot I had the phone on mute because I was talking. And like I said, I was talking for the first 10 minutes, and like I said, I didn't even realize I left the thing on mute, talking to a dead phone or a mute phone. But anyway, I apologize for that. Like I said, I didn't know Black Klansman was going to go along. I was gunning it to get back here. But like I said, I'm glad I saw the movie because, like I said, it's worth seeing, but you'll see what I'm talking about. Those of you who are in tune with what I'm saying, you just see how played out these things are and how they try to rehash it. And then Spike Lee tried to match what's going on or what went on in Charlottesville, right? What went on in Charlottesville, what went on and, what was going on back then. He tried to match it all up, right? He tried to match it all up, showing that these people are still trying to live off of these ideas, right? They want to, like I said, you got these white racists who want to keep on sensationalizing racism. They want to push Donald Trump, white supremacy, white power, all this, because they know they're slipping away. They're slipping away. They're slipping away. It's the same way when the so-called white man was fighting the Indians, and the Indians was fighting hard, and they would say things like the Indian War, Custer's last stand, and the Indians was fighting hard, and they, basically got wiped out, right? Because they had to be wiped out because their way of life in this place called America, when the white man was colonizing, was fading away. That whole tribalism thing was fading away in favor of government. It was fading away. It had to be faded away. Almond faded away because it was not meant to be part of the evolution. What we're living in now was meant to evolve into this. And so a greater or next level of life or next way of life is going to fade away this one. This system here, another one's going to fade it away. And that's not me bringing it. It's Almond bringing that. The Most High is bringing that because the Most High fades people, places, and possessions away by way of the power to bring about something greater, something extended, all the time. You understand? All the time. Faded away. And again, it's necessary. And the sad thing is, I feel sad when I see so-called black people, like when we did the thing in Atlanta, the Supreme Mind conference out in Atlanta, I saw a lot of black people where, we had a good turnout, but I've seen so many so-called black people that are not going to be able to make the jump. They're not going to be able to make the evolution. They're not going to. I've seen it in their faces. They was lost at the things I was saying. I've seen some that was able to, it resonated with, and they were able to make the walk with me. Those who will be joining the Republic, because again, we have to evolve. We have to evolve in our way of thinking. You understand that? We have to evolve in our way of thinking. People fight evolution all the time. And like I said, this is what you're seeing with these neo-Nazis. These people fighting evolution. They fighting change. They want their way of life to be as it was. Blacks on the bottom. They, this, that, and the third. They can talk to anybody in my kind of way and whatnot. But like I said, that's your last thing. You can't fight evolution. Much as you try, you can hate on everybody around you and things like that, want to kill and destroy you. You can't fight evolution. You cannot fight change. And if you are not part of the change, you're going to fade away. Simple as that. Black people as well. Black people as well. The change for us is supposed to be Amen. The change for us and the evolution for us is supposed to be Amen. And the bright race as Mentalians, that's supposed to be the change, but a lot of black people they're not going to feel that. They're not going to be able to make that jump. They're not going to be able to make that jump. They want to still think with an old black mindset, an old black mentality. They still want to do that. And we are not in that time or in that mind frame anymore. Amen is advancing the minds of our people, the bright race, out of blackness, out of darkness. Because the evolution or the extension by way of intellect comes as we're being pulled out of the darkness. Because like I said, a lot of things I looked at and thought were powerful when I was a so-called black man. When I was in the mindset as a black man, I no longer think of powerful. I see them as weak now. I see them as weak. The things that made me emotional when it came to black people and how they mistreatment, I don't see it that way no more. Because I look at black people as weak for not being able to come together collectively under one mind, one body, one soul, and form their own communities all over the world. I look at them as weak for having to go on their knees to the white man and any other race. I look at that as weak. At one point in time, I was in solidarity with my so-called black people, but now, my mind is extended to the point where I don't want to be the victim, and I don't want to raise my children or see themselves as victims who are seeking equality, who's seeking a pat on the head, who's seeking a hug from Caucasians and other races of people. I'm not raising my people like that. Why? Because that way of thinking is fading away. It is physically and mentally fading away. It faded away from me a long time ago. But I'm still seeing black people embrace it. I'm still seeing black people embracing that, and that is going to be the death of black people, mentally and physically, because that time is fading away. That whole black and white together or against each other and together and against, which is the same thing, is fading away. That whole thing of on our knees praying to some unseen gods and waiting on them to come in spaceships, and any day now, like I hear you Israelites, any day now the Lord's coming back. Any day now, it's coming, just wait for it. We about to be out of here, we about to be delivered. Then y'all going to be saying for the next 5 or 10 years. And then a lot of you are going to lead that so-called truth, because that one-trick pony, that story of the ships is coming and the sky is falling, that's going to wear thin. And a lot of people are going to wake up, and they're going to look for something more extended, more evolved in thought, and try to make a higher connection. They're going to outlive your Bible, outrun your Qurans, outrun all this stuff. People are looking to go past that. You can't hold the people back by fear. Because that's the only way you hold people back. You can't hold them back by fear no more. You can't hold evolution back by fear. Right? You can't hold it back. You want people to be old vessels. You understand? Right? You want people to be old vessels for demonic possession. That's not going to happen. Like I said, that's saying in the Bible, you can't put old wine in new bottles or next bottles. For old wine in new bottles. Next bottles. We are becoming that next level of people. We're moving out of that red, black, and green nonsense. We're moving out of that trying to seek equality nonsense. We're moving out of that whole Jesus Christ spirituality, black on black power. We're moving out of all that. All that begging the white man, all this racial. We're moving out of that. We're moving on to something else, something greater, something higher. And that is by the power of Amen. Not by the power of man, by the power of Amen. That natural selection. Like I said in that movie, when Spike Lee showed all these things, he showed it, the black thing going hand in hand with the white. Because he did that, like I said, skillfully. He showed black people all together, red, black, and green, the Pan-African people on one side, the black African Americans on one side, and the Klan on the other side. He showed it going hand in hand. He's showing us all the same thing. That was what he was really showing in there, that it all balances out. It's all the same rhetoric, man. It's all the same rhetoric. And then, of course, he showed in the movie the so-called black woman, when here it is, Denzel Washington's son saved her life, the so-called black power queen. He is a cop. He saved her life for her getting killed by the Klan. She going to say, I can't be with you because you a pig. She going to call a black man a pig and disrespect him, yet he just saved her life. You understand? In other words, I'm going to go be with some fake black Power Ranger nigga who ain't going to do nothing, because her mind is stuck in that frame, in that mode. That's what he was really showing with these type of women like this. Their mind is stuck in that frame, in that mode. She didn't want to be the so-called black man who saved her life, because her mind was still stuck in that Black Panther, black whatever power mode of nonsense. You understand? That's all feeding off the same energy. That's all feeding off the same energy. In other words, she'd have been okay with getting blown up in a bomb by the Clintons, basically being a victim of the so-called white man being a victim. She'd have been okay with that. The black man stepped out and broke that victimization mind frame, at least for that moment, and saved her life. And she couldn't get with that. These people are just like these people are locked into being. These white races are locked into being, because they get off on that. They're locked into that whole mindset of being oppressors and terrorizing people and whatnot, quote unquote, way of life. To maintain their way of life. They get off on that. You got black people that get off on being martyrs and victims of so-called white supremacy. They get off on that. They all live in that time frame. They get off on it. You got black people who get off on being victims. They get off on telling stories of how our people were beaten and lynched and we and white supremacy. They get off on it. Even these Negroes today, a lot of these YouTube Negroes, black white supremacist Negroes, black inferiority / white supremacy Negroes and whatnot. Like I said, in order for you to embrace white supremacy, you have to embrace black inferiority, or in other words, in order to embrace white superiority, you have to embrace that you are black and inferior, or black inferiority. You have to embrace that. You can't have one without the other. You got people that get off on that. They'll sit up here and talk all day about the white man, but then when you say to them, well, why don't we clean up our neighborhood and just do things for ourselves and whatnot, come together as a people and be a community? They don't want to hear that. That's not real to them because that's too advanced, that's too evolved, and that fades away their whole hate the white man, really love the white man. I hate the white man, but I really love the white man mentality. Because like they said, it's a thin line between love and hate. Fades away, and they can't hide behind the excuses of doing nothing no more. You understand that? They can't feed into that anymore. All right? They can't feed into that, and that whole mindset is fading from black people. Those are the ones our people who are waking up as the bright race, the young generation. Armin brought that in to fade that out and fade those people to black, man. Fade them to black. Right? Fade that whole white superiority mindset to black. Because like I said, when you got people that's relaxed and they really in their element, they ain't worrying about nothing, they just living their life and whatnot, they secure with it. But then when you see they start feeling as though, oh, my life is slipping away, my way of life, and, I could walk around as a proud white man or a proud white woman, and I could look down on niggas and everybody else, and whatnot, they see that slipping away, they're going to come out, and do whatever they got to do, whether they got to kill black people, do whatever, because, like I said, that's being done out of frustration. That's being done out of frustration. You really mad at the Creator, the Most High. You mad at the Most High. You mad at the true Lord, who's making the change. You mad at him. He's ushering in something else. It ain't about your black and white program no more. Amun is ushering in something else. Amun is ushering in a new race, the Amun race. And he's ushering in the blank race, separate. Ushering in the mixed up race. Amun is ushering that in. All right? And like I said, when you don't want to hear, I noticed that when you don't want to hear that whole sad song and that old mentality of black people who still want to play victim, when you no longer want to hear that, they looking at you like you crazy. Why you don't want to, why you don't want to, you know what I mean? Why you don't want to? No. You can't, like you said, you can't put new wine in old bottles. Right? Or how you said, or put new wine in old wine skin. Now, I heard it was new. I heard the saying was new wine in old bottles. That's how I heard. Right? But regardless, you get the point. You can't. And you can't extend people who are not meant to be extended. They have to fade away. They have to fade away in order for the next level to come in. And we must always remain in the next. We must always remain in the next. Always. We must always remain in the next. Not in the now, but in the next. And we must remain in the next as a collective body of Amen, and as a community. We must remain that way. That's the only way that we're going to be able to move forward. That's the only way. That's the only way we're going to be able to live, not survive, but live. Because like I said, you got these so-called white people, they do this, the white supremacist racist people, they want to get black people sucked in. They, like I said, these people need something they need something to live for because they know they're dying. Their cause is dying. They need something to live for. They need something to kick at and go screaming at. Same thing with these black people, these black revolutionary cats. They need something to get mad about. They need something to, march on or talk about. They need some brutality. They need something to talk about. Because the future don't look bright for them. The future don't look bright for them. They need that. Because reality is staring them right in the face. The reality of a world that's fading away fast. Like I said, when you listen to your friends talk now, listen to your friends. You see how if you start to listen to your friends and you listen to them talk and you start to see how less and less with the things they say, the more and more they say, the less and less it has power to you, the less you notice you start to care about the things people say that you used to look up to or like, or they was cool with you and whatnot. And the more and more they talk, you just get tired of listening to them talk. You ever get that? And you just don't know what happened. It's just a shift took place. The more and more they talk, the more and more it just seemed like, you just like, I don't want to hear what they got to say. You don't know why. You used to like these people, but then you don't like them no more. You used to like watching that favorite TV show of yours and whatnot, and you'd be like, yeah, and now you just look at the writing and stuff like that, and it's just, everything just seems so corny. Everything just seems so whack. Everything just seems so contrived, and it's corny. It's played out because it is playing itself out. It's playing itself out. That's why it seems like that, because it is like that. It is playing themselves out. People are playing themselves out. Circumstances, situations, relationships, all these things that are not meant to be extended are playing themselves out. And we got to make sure we don't get played out with them. That's why I told my people, don't get caught up in people, place, and possession. Don't get caught up in the now and the then. Always be moving. Keep it moving. Keep it moving. Keep it moving. Keep it moving. Intellect represents that constant motion because we have to be mentally on point. We have to be judging ourselves mentally. We don't rest on any books. We don't rest on any, we don't got no Bibles to rest on. We don't got no finished books to rest on. Our books will continue. Our books will continue. Our books will continue. When you don't have nothing next level or new to give to people, then they're going to begin to fade. They're going to begin to fade fast. If you don't have nothing new or next for the people to feed them mentally, if you don't have anything on the next level, I'm going to say not new, I'm going to say next. I don't want to say new, I don't want to say old, because again, all new things become old over time. When you don't have next things to give them, next level things to give them to keep their minds moving, then eventually they're going to fade away. It's the same way when you deprive somebody of eating food. When you deprive them of eating, right, what's going to happen? They're going to starve, and they're going to waste away. They're going to waste away. And that's what's happening with the people. They're wasting away mentally and physically. They're wasting away because you have nothing to feed them. The so-called white man, he don't got nothing to feed you so-called black people anymore. He ain't got nothing new to teach you. Nothing. He has nothing new to teach you. He's fading away. He's fading away. He has nothing new to give you or add on to. He's trying to revamp old things. He's trying to bring back old fads. You understand? He can no longer capture the imagination of the people, whether simple and weak-minded people he can capture the imaginations of, but he can no longer capture the imaginations of the people anymore because he's fading away. He's trying to save all of his mental energy to go to Mars and whatnot to get a new start. Because that's why he wants to leave Mars, because he knows his time on this planet is up. He's fading away on this planet. He knows that. He knows that. That's why he wanted to get a fresh start on Mars. New lease on life, as they say, a new lease on life. He knows his time is up here. Then it's like I said, the revelation come now in you and fury, knowing that his time is short. So it's going to get worse. It's got to get worse before it get better. But I tell my people, Stay out of these people's way. Stay out of their way. Stay out their way. Stay out of black people's way and stay out of white people's way. Stay out of the human mindset. Stay out of the human mentality. Steer clear of the human mentality. Think only of Amen. Think only of the extension and ready yourself to be a part of the extension. Think only that way. I said, we're future people. I'm not against this society at all. I'm not against it or for it. We just keep moving as future people. We ain't got no stand against white people or black people. I don't care about neither one. I don't care about black people or white people or in-between people and human. I don't care about that. We care about Amen, or we're focused on Amen and being that next people, always the next. Always in the next. And you cannot be the next people with a now mindset or a now mentality, because now is nothing but fads. Now is nothing but fads. Now is about nothing but fads. That's what now is about. Mankind controls it now with fads, because he knows he can fade fads out. He knows he can fade them out and bring them back and fade them out, but this time he won't be able to bring them back. He won't be able to bring back the fads, because the quicker he brings back the fads, the quicker Amen will fade them out. The quicker he tries to resurrect the fads, the quicker Amen will fade them out. Because you know the fads that they introduce into society are artificial forms of change. They're not real change. They're artificial forms of change and evolution. They're artificial. They're not real. The only natural evolution of change comes by way of Amen, by the Most High, by the Lord. That's it. The Most High, the true Lord, Amen, makes change, makes things move forward, makes things evolve. And man and mankind cannot stop that. You cannot be against it. All you can do is be for it. All you can do is let it go through. That's like trying to stop a damn tornado. You can't stop a tornado. You can't stop an earthquake. You can't stop it. It's a natural disaster. And this evolution, which is causing the fading of the minds and the physical bodies of the people, is a natural evolution. It is a natural evolution. You'll know who's meant to evolve and who's meant not to when, like I said, even in your personal circles that you once had, you'll know who's meant to evolve. And hell, you can listen to yourself. When you find yourself getting bored with yourself, and your own ideas, then that's a sign that you're fading. When you can't be by yourself, when you always need outside stimulation, when you don't want to get with your own self and think about things are going through your head and think about altering and extending yourself, when that's not your mindset, that's a sign that you fade. That's a sign that you fade. You fading away. That's what that is. That's a sign that you fading away, because you don't want to look at your real thoughts. You understand? You don't want to look at your real thoughts. You don't want to give way to your real thoughts. That's why a lot of these people having thoughts now of suicide, killing themselves, depressed and whatnot, because that might be a sign that these people, and that is 9 times that is a sign these people are not of the next, they're of the now. And the now is always fading. If the now is representing the fading or the fads going away, then that means you got to go with it. You got to go with it. If you're not meant to extend, you're going to go with it. You're going to be going right with it. Just like them people, like I said, just like them people in the Avengers Infinity War. When Thanos came on the scene, all them people started to fade away and die off and whatnot. They faded away and died off because they were not meant to be part of the extension. Their energy or the material that made them up started to dissipate. They started to disappear. They started to fade away. So always make yourself a part of the next. For so-called black people, Mentellect is the next. For the ones of our people who are coming out the black race, we can't come into Mentellect as the black race, because, again, if you try to enter into this as so-called black people, you're going to fade away. And why do you think I said in the Republic of Mentellect, when we get black people who come in here and they might last a little bit, but then they're going to eventually fade away? They're gonna. That's why I always came to the phrase "fade to black." Fade to black. They go out mad at me, or they go back into their life. And my thing is, well, if you came out of a life or out of the darkness, and you were seeking the light, and you were here, obviously your life before you came here was not fulfilling. So why would you want to go back there? Why would you want to go back to being black people again? If that wasn't fulfilling for you, why would you want to go back? It's because you're not meant to extend into the next level as one of the bright ones. You're not meant to extend. You're meant to fade to black. You're meant to continue having black conversations with your black friends. You're meant to continue talking about the same nonsense. You're meant to continuously talk in circles until you fade out, because even that talking in circles is really fading away. You know how you see when something circles the drain and then eventually goes down the drain? That's going to be the mass majority of your human race. Drain scenario, circling the drain, where you basically saying the same thing over and over and over again. That's a sign that you circling out. Obviously, you circling out before you fall into the oblivion, until you fade into the abyss. That's what that represents. A fade into the oblivion, into the abyss. And that's what we're seeing right now. This is real. This is real. And again, like I said, I truly feel for those of our people who have yet to see this, who have yet to come to grips with this. Right? The ones who are looking or seeking enlightenment, because when you say you're seeking enlightenment, you're really seeking extension. When you seek an enlightenment, you really seek an extension. You're getting tired of your old ways of thinking. You're looking for something new or next. You're looking for extension. You understand? You're looking for something next. You're looking to be extended. This is why you're looking for the next thing. This is why you're looking and seeking the next level. You're seeking what's next. You're seeking what's next. You're looking for the next level of you. And you have to be prepared for that. And it might not be with the people that you were with in the previous world, in the black world. They might not be here to walk with you. And you have to be willing to walk by yourself or walk with those who are in that mind frame with you. And this is what Mentellect is all about, gathering those people or those persons into that united mental force and that united physical force to move forward into the future. We'll be right back. You know, something I noticed, and like I said, I'm glad I saw that movie tonight. And again, I apologize for getting back late. I started the broadcast one time. We started up playing the music, but then I had the phone on. I had to do it from my cell phone. I switched back over to my regular landline, which I really usually do the broadcast on. But I'm glad I saw that movie because it helped me see something I wouldn't have saw 10 or 15 years ago, because my mind was in the fad of being black. It was in the fad of blackness. But now that has faded, and I have walked into the state of brightness. I went from black to light to bright. So in the state of brightness, and I'm going to continue walking on this bright path, which is being laid out by Amen. You know, what I realized in looking at that movie again, of course, it was a whole lot of racial rhetoric, black and white racial rhetoric, right? One thing I noticed that the people without community, real community, without real collective ties to one another, this is the ones who suffer from racism. Again, white people don't really, the white people, other than the Jews and the Amish and people, if you ever notice, you don't see any racism or their racial, nothing, no racial thing go on with them. They're not out attacking people, your so-called Jews, white Jews, and your white Amish people. They're not out attacking people. You notice that. They all about their community and building up their community. You ever notice that? They don't got time to be talking, we hate niggers, we hate black people. I mean, they might feel that way, but they ain't out here attacking. They whatever racism they teach, they keep it in their community. They ain't out here burning crosses and bothering people. You ever notice that? They don't get caught up in all that. But it's always black and white. And what is the thing that they have in common? And that is No real collective connection with each other. White people don't have no real collective connection with each other. The only time they have any real collective connection with each other is when they speaking against black people. When they, got their little racist ideologies and they feel like, we need to get together, because again, the black thing bonds them together. And they need that. That's how they feel empowered when they bonded together. They need the black thing to bond them together, because if they didn't have black people to bond together, or other people that they hate, other so-called groups, then they wouldn't be together. They wouldn't. They'd be against each other. That's why I was telling Ross and Deer, I said, black people, because if they really, hate black people so much, right, they could have said, you know what, we're going to petition the government and we want to raise hell here to get black people out of America. Let's send them to South America. Let them build up South America and let all black people have South America and Africa and everything going back toward the east and all that. Let them have that, and we just take North America and England and we just stay separate from each other, and we'll see what happens from there. They could do business and trade with each other. Like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad kept saying, separation. But see, the so-called white man, they don't really want separation. They don't want it. But shows you they're hypocritical. They want supremacy. They want you so-called black men fighting for them and dying for them in wars and playing football and playing sports and basically being a bunch of black bucks, basically maintaining this white superiority, black inferiority thing, have your black women whenever they feel like it. That's what they really want. They don't want you to go nowhere. They don't, because that'd be just simple. They could have petitioned the government. Let's get blacks. Like, we all work together. We're going to go over here, let them have what they want to have, let them govern their own thing, and we ain't got to see them. They ain't got to see us. But then they would turn on each other because they're really not cohesive. They just like black people. They messed up. White people, I'm talking about your white trash, the ones who really are part of that white supremacy thing, right? Not your Jews and not your Amish and those ones who have a real community and, a real collective culture. Not them. I'm talking about your white trash who basically like your black trash here. They don't really have it. And see, that's all being revealed. That's when Spike Lee put that movie. It just helped you see that. They need black and white to keep them together mentally. They need black and white. Because you could have just as easily said, look, let's let them people go over there and whatnot. We're not going to live in Africa. We're going to tell them farmers in Africa to give up their land and let the blacks have their land and whatnot. We can all do business but let's just go ahead and, they don't want that. They'll fight to keep you here. You understand that? That shows you how sick they are. They want somebody to be over. Exactly. Like one of my people said, they want somebody to be over. You understand? They got a sick bloodlust for you. They want to feel empowered by beating on the people that they really feel inferior to, and all that's being revealed because they're fading away. All that's going to come out. That's what's really behind all this white and black racism. And black people want to have somebody to blame. They're both codependent on each other. They're both codependent. Black and white are codependent on each other. You understand that? They're codependent. It's a sick and demented and chaotic and confused relationship. That's really what it is. Mike Lee probably, his so-called black mindset, because like I said, a lot of these black power, black revolutionary people are full of shit, man. They're full of shit. They're nothing but a bunch of, they love white people. They're a bunch of coons. A lot of the black power chicks, they're black women, power women. If you've seen the movies, it's the black power women. I'm using this as an example of what I'm saying. These black power women who talking all that crap, a lot of them, power to the people, and she got against the black man. She'd be the same black woman who will get with the national liberation of women and go be a lesbian or be with a white man who talking about, he's against the government too. She'll go and be right with a white man. A lot of them so-called pro-black sisters with the naturals who, the pigs this and the pigs that, they'll go be with the white man who claiming, I'm not with whitey. They don't have a problem with the white man because, again, they feed off of that whole black and white thing. They share, they are in connection. Same thing when you get rid of God and the devil. If the people in religion, if you told them, we're going to get rid of the devil, you'll see them be like, why are you getting rid of the devil? The people who love God so much. You tell them, the devil's going to be, we're not going to speak on the devil, we're going to get rid of the devil. They'll be like, why are you getting rid of the devil? Because God and the devil are codependent on each other. That keeps religion going. You understand? They work together. They're used to that system. And now that system of codependency is starting to fade. Because once people can identify it and see it for what it is, once you start to become the wiser to it and you see it for what it really is, then you start to raise your children as we're going to raise our children to see it for what it really is and what these people really are, black and white, and the whole human condition. A thing of the past. I'm going to take a call. 410.
Hello?
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 Hello, I hear you. Yes. Yes.
Oh, hey, how are you? My name's Jason.
Uh-huh.
I've listened to your broadcast for a while now, and you said that America was going to fall sometime between now and 2076 or something like that. I just wanted to know, like, what gave you that number? What made you say that year, per se, you know?
Because that coincides with the 1776 date in which America was established, which was really May 1st, not July 4th. It coincides. I said America will not see 300 years. That would be 300 years from 1776. And I said that the evolution of society and the landscape of society would change and evolve into something else. So this thing known as America, at one point in time, this thing called America was under British rule, right? And then at one time it was with the Indians, and then at one time with the Olmecs. So again, evolution. When people are no longer able to extend themselves in their way of thinking, I don't care who you are, black, white, and everything in between, when you are no longer able to extend yourself in your level of thinking, when you are no longer in alignment with change and evolution, then you're going to fade away. And that goes for this government too. And again, I'm not saying that I'm against this society, because I don't care one way or the other. I'm not for or against anything. It's just I'm talking about a natural evolution which the Most High, the Creator, brings in. When the Most High is introducing next level ideas to a next level group of people, then eventually they're going to come into power. You're always going to have people that are going to come into power, and those are going to fade away, and those are going to come into a higher power, those who cannot extend themselves. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I definitely get what you're saying. You know, I just want to just know, like, is it going to be a peaceful transition? You know, is it going to be, like, chaotic, or is it just going to be one of those things where, like, they just step down out of power?
Well, it'll go out the same way it came in, chaotic. America came into power by chaos, but it'll be a slow chaos. It'll go out. Because the white man shows you this all the time. Because you ever notice when he shows you all these futuristic movies, he always talks about the year 2075, 2074, and he shows you things in ruins. You ever see that? Like Mad Max and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Like things look like desert. Things look like desert and everything. Yeah. Things look like in the future look like desert and everything, like, because he knows that's what's going to eventually happen. He knows. Nothing lasts forever. And again, you can't fight the evolution. Either you can extend yourself and evolve yourself with the change, which comes by way of Amen, by the Most High, the Lord, which will never change, who brings change and brings extension and next level, or you can fade away with, in the mindset of yesterday and calling yourself locking into these ways, these limited ways of thinking, these fads.
Right. All right, well, that's all the questions I really had, because that really just resonated in my head, like, wow, like, 60 years from now, it's all going to be over. But, yeah, that's all the questions I had.
It ain't going to all be over. Well, for the so-called black man, yeah, it is going to be all over, because the black man is linked up. The black man who raising his son right now, who ain't got a clue about where he is in society, who just here and he just, like I said, he's simple-minded. The so-called black woman, the white man, the white woman, to the ones who smoking and partying and drinking and getting high. Yeah, your world is going to be, I'm not saying yours, but I'm saying their minds who are locked into this thing of now, their world, it will be over. It will end. Because their mindset is locked into this microcosm called America, this American pop culture and this society, and they don't know how to think beyond this. They don't got a clue. So that's why I said a lot of the so-called black race is going to fade away right along with the white.
Right. Because like, if you notice, like, they starting to try to legalize pedophilia or whatever, and I'm just sitting here like, you warned us about this, and so like when I saw that, I automatically thought of you, and my heart just dropped. You know what I mean? Because that's a tall tale sign. Because I remember this white boy years ago when I was in high school. He said he said he was against homosexuality because that's how the Greek society fell and the Roman society fell. And so once you said it too, whatever, now I see that happening. It's just, it's wow. It's just real mind blowing.
Yeah, well, that's degeneracy. Degeneracy, just like mold. You know how you get mold and mildew in a building and whatnot, and if it's not cleaned out, if it's not the foundation is not restored and it's not cleaned out, the mold and things like that, and you get dry rot and all kinds of things that can happen over time with a building if it's not restored or regenerated or whatever. It's not cleaned out. It will eventually eat away at the foundation of a building. The building will fall. It's the same way with a society when you have people who are not being refreshed with next level ideas. You're refreshing their minds basically with a bunch of degeneracy, because now in this society, you don't have a regeneration of family. You don't have a regeneration of decency, of morals. You don't have that. You have people pushing degeneracy. You have them pushing men together, women together, animals and people, all kind of filth, all kinds of filth that's being pushed here. So if you building a next generation or foundation for the next generation, next society on degeneracy and filth that you're trying to pass off as being progressive, then what's going to happen?
Yeah, man, it's liable to just go to straight shit. That's the best way I can say it.
Yeah, it's going to crumble. It's going to fade away. It's going to fade away. And that's what you're saying. Because, again, I'm going to keep you on the phone. I just want to say this. When you see the white man, the only reason why the white man and the elites, they introducing all this homosexuality, transgenderism, lesbianism, all this bestiality, pedophilia, because they don't have nothing else to offer the people. When the best you got to offer in the society that you built up on some sort of morals at one time, the so-called white man had some kind of morals at one time, some kind, even though it was kind of sketchy. The best you got to do now, the best you can offer into society is degeneracy, that's the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the end.
But another question is kind of off topic. They said that the human brain, people only use like 10% of their brains or whatever the case may be. So
not even that much.
Not even that much.
They said I heard 3%. Not even about, and that's about right, 3%. Because people still, the mass majority of your so-called human race, they act like animals. They act like animals. They act like they move off of animal instinct. They're not really thinkers. They move like animals. That's why in school when you're trained like an animal. Really, you're trained to obey, answer questions that you answer. They tell you that they don't create an environment in school for you to think. You're not trained, or you're not taught, I should say, to think. You're taught to basically answer and say what they want you to say. You're taught to respond the way they want you to respond, not think.
Right.
Because when you in school, you're supposed to be school is supposed to be a place where you're interacting to use your intelligence, to use more of your mental power. They're supposed to be challenging you mentally with real life scenarios and situations that you're going to need to move through the world. But they don't do that. They don't do that.
Right. Yeah, because like we use such a small portion of our brain, and you always talking about how quote unquote black people are supposed to be the elect or the chosen one. So would be following your steps or following the intellect or whatever the case may be. Would that unlock the rest of your power, the rest of the percentage of your brain in order to get those higher capabilities or whatever the case may be?
Yes, indeed. But black people ain't gonna follow that. Did you see my class in Atlanta? We didn't film it. Like some people film it with the phones and whatnot, and they might put a little bit of that footage on YouTube. But in my class in Atlanta, the bigger and bigger my classes get, and you start to see black people come, you'll see more and more black people, they're not able to extend themselves, so what they're going to do is rebel against it. The mass majority of black people are not able to be extended, and they're not going to advance into that race of bright people. They're not going to advance because their minds are locked in being black and being big, dumb black apes. Like I had them saying in class, they big, dumb black apes. Because they like listening to, they look up to big, dumb black apes, right? Like your LeBron James, because that's what the white man think of you. He calls you black because he sees you he sees himself as a smart white man. He sees himself as a smart white man and your master and you his big black dumb ape. They can run fast, jump high, don't have much intelligence, and basically relies on him. That's what he sees you as. And black people don't mind, and black men don't mind functioning that way for a paycheck.
Yeah, because it's crazy that you keep on saying that white people would try to keep us here if we actually try to leave. Because one, they already did that, and two, it's just like I thought about that a long time ago. Like why like if they hate us so much, why don't they just kill us off? But now what you're saying adds so more context to it,
Yeah, because to kill black people or send black people away, they would turn on each other. If black people was going out of America, white people would turn on each other. Trust me. And the first target of what white people would turn on, they would turn and start fighting the Jews. So we are basically the barrier between white people tearing each other apart and the other races. That's why they don't want black people to go nowhere. They talk all that crap about, go back to Africa and this, that, that. But, okay, everybody black person said, well, we going to Africa. We want all you white people out of Africa. We're going to take Africa and we'll take South America. Y'all take North America and y'all take Canada and Europe and we'll take all this over here and we split it down. You think they're going to do that? Hell no. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. Because the Klan ain't nothing but a government-sponsored organization. They ain't nothing but a government-sponsored organization that a government used to keep black people in line, basically keep them fearful and whatnot. That's why they never lock these people up or really do nothing to these people.
Right.
No matter how many crosses they burn, no matter how many people they terrorize, because they like to keep that status quo going. They like to keep that whole supremacy thing or that so-called white supremacy thing and that whole white superiority thing works for them. But you have to have somebody on the bottom to be to think of themselves as inferior. And that's black people. Black people think of themselves as inferior. That's why white superiority stands, because of black people.
Right. And it's funny you say that, too, because I remember, because I'm in college right now, and then I was taking a race and injustice class, and I didn't even want to take it. It was just one of those things that was open, and I really have a choice. But so I pretty much did a report on the city of Miami or whatever, and I shared it. That was for another class, but I shared it in this class. And I was talking about, how Cubans, own their property or whatever to keep everything in house and things like that or whatever. And so when I tried to explain that black people need to do that or whatever the case may be and apply that in our neighborhoods or whatever the case may be and, actually get involved. I wouldn't say get involved with politics, not even necessarily get involved with politics, but just do for thyself or whatever. People got mad at me, but mostly black people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because, again, black people, they're going to get mad because they've been so used to chasing this whole equality idea. The whole equality idea and that wanting, that desire to get a hug and a pat on the head from the white man and be equal with them. And, the black woman, she bugged out of her mind. She'll just, she'll spread her legs for the white man just to get this whole idea of equality and racism out the window when they don't understand that they're feeding racism when they do that. They're actually feeding it. They got that equality mindset. So whenever you start saying, voting don't count, politics ain't gonna count, this and the third, you're crapping on their dream. You crapping on their dream.
Right.
You crapping on their dream. You crapping on their dream of equality, which they're never gonna get. You crapping on their dream. They don't like that black. When you tell them you don't vote, how you don't vote? People died for this vote, and this, that, and the thing. You done told them that the so-called white man and the elites and all these people that run this society, they elect the president. You ain't got nothing. Your vote ain't got nothing to do with that. They don't care about your votes. They're going to tell you who's going to be the president. You can't tell these Negroes. You can't tell these Negroes that. Huh?
They showed that. They showed that with this last election when the majority of the people voted for Hillary Clinton and Trump got in office. So, you know what I mean?
They don't give a damn about your vote, but you can't tell black people that because they still believe they helped Barack Obama get in the office. They too stupid, man. Yeah, stupid people are meant to fade away, brother. See, stupid people are always going to be meant to fade away. All right? I don't care if you black, white, whatever. Stupid people are always going to be meant to fade away.
And it's just like it's just like they refuse to like see that other people, like other groups of people are sticking together and doing by themselves, and they just want to keep on pressing this idea that the white man is going to do something for them, and it's not going to happen. But I'm going to keep on listening.
All right, brother. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm glad I saw this a Spike Lee movie, Black Klansman. Go see it. See what I'm talking about. You get a whole another different mindset. It was a good movie, but like I said, I understand where they was coming from with that. You'll get a whole another perception of Spike Lee and all the black and white and, where these people are coming from, because it's all BS. I'll be right. And, again, even in your personal life, like I said before, you're going to start to see people, your friends, family members, loved ones, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, you're going to start to see them fading away in front of your face. They're going to all of a sudden get sick where they weren't sick before. Eventually you're going to, where, like I said, you was listening to these people, you was riding with these people and whatnot, and, being with them and, and then eventually you're just going to get tired. You're going to get tired, because that happens all the time. When you get tired of people, you get tired of them saying that, just doing the same thing over and over again, saying the same thing over, no growth, no evolution, no nothing, no extension of your thought and whatnot. People, you just ended up in the same situation over and over and over again with these people and whatnot, and your life, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your significant other, your partner, your family members. You're going to get tired, and eventually their words are going to have less and less weight with you. It's not going to resonate, and their words are going to become lighter and lighter and lighter till they start to fade. And then they're going to start to fade out of your life, and then you're going to eventually want to get away from these people. That's real, because they're fading away, and you are extending yourself, and they are fading away. Right? They're fading away. You understand? They're fading away. And you have to be mindful of the fade and not to get caught up in it. You have to be mindful of the fade and not get caught up in the fade or the fad of people. People are fatty. They are fads. People are a big old bunch of fads. Right? Like you see these Negroes with the hair all over their face, the beards and whatnot. Now that's become their way of life. Right? Next thing you know, they'll have waves. Next minute, they'll have afros. Next minute, they'll have gold teeth. Next minute, they'll be wearing pants off their ass. Next minute, they'll be, tattoos all over themselves. Next minute, they'll be doing something else. Like I said, they fatty people. They don't really stand for anything. When you don't have somebody who stands for something for real, they will eventually fade away for real. When they don't stand for nothing, when it's nothing that defines them, you understand? When it's nothing that defines them, nothing definitive that is going to stand the test of time, where they're not rooted by something definitive, something they stand for, something they stand up for, then they're going to fade. And that's the mass majority of black people and white people and people in general. They don't really stand for nothing. They stand for nothing. That's why I always point out the Jews, because, again, the Jews, by whatever time they're going to be around, they like I said, they stand on they belief system and their community and stuff like that. That's why they go so hard for their community, because they know it's so easy for people, places, and possessions to fade away. Community is so easy when you don't have those bonds. It's so easy for people to fade away. It's so easy. That's why they go so hard for their communities. Wherever you go in these cities, you see a Jewish community somewhere. Nobody bothers those people. Nobody bothers them. The Hasidic Jews, nobody bothers them. You understand that? Why is that? Why these things befall black people? Because, again, black people are easily moved. They're easily moved away. They're easily moved, right? They're easily, just moved away. You could easily just move black people aside. They're just like the easy obstacles to move out of the way, right? You could just fade them away. You just fade them away easily. You understand? You can easily fade them away. I'm going to take a call. 205.
Menzak, in Rue Elijah Daisy.
Menzak.
So I had to call in on this subject. I told you in the chat about the barbershop incident. So I went to the barbershop, and the barber wanted me to leave because of that whole Jesus incident. I'm trying to get him to see beyond the Bible, but everything of common sense that I was talking about, they had to go back to the Bible. Like, they cannot think outside the Bible, period. They just saying, oh, God said let it be light. And I'm like, well, we can't teach our kids this. I mean, we have to it's a process with everything. You can't just say, let there be light, And I said, well, tell me, where's Jesus buried at? If you're going to force that on us, at least give us some evidence about it. And got all mad and emotional, screaming and yelling like 60 years old now.
Well, these are the people that fading away. When you ask the question, that was fading away his belief system. Yeah, you was fading away. You was erasing something that he basically stood on and believed in for 60 years of his life. He basically, by you asking that question, you forced him to look at the instability of his way of thinking. You forced him to look at that, and nobody who, basically use these things as their foundation. They don't want you. They ain't trying to get that up. You can't do that, brother. You can't do that. They slow. It's like you trying to. It's like you taking Cro-Magnon man or one of them cavemen and you trying to bring them into a modern day world. They go crazy, man. It's the same way. You trying to bring prehistoric thinking or a primitive man into future thinking. He can't do that. You got to leave them people alone, bro. Leave them alone. They'll be done kill you. You never know. He be done flip down somebody. He be done cut you in the face with a razor or something.
Right, because they act like a pack of wolves.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
They go crazy over their white Jesus. Leave them people alone. They go crazy over white Jesus. They lose their damn mind. You tell them, where's Jesus at? Where's Jesus white? They Negroes still can't get over the fact. Come on, they still struggling with the black Jesus thing. Or so you tell them about no Jesus, they go crazy, man. Leave these Negroes alone.
That's all I want.
They steeped heavily in their slave mindset. But all right, brother, Menzak and
Menzak.
All right. We got to get these final calls out. Those of you who call in right now. We got the final calls coming in. Not the final calls of the Nation of Islam, but the final calls for this broadcast. Call in and get this out the way because we got 9 minutes left. Again, like I said, you're going to see this in all walks and every facet of your life of those people who are going to fade away. You're going to see that in every walk and every facet of your life. You got to let them people go, man. I'm going to take another call. 718.
Hi, Ruben. Hi, this is Khadija. I want to ask you a question about the Anunnaki.
You mean Nubin?
Nubin, oh my God, please forgive me. I'm so sorry. You are just so awesome, so totally awesome. And the picture on the wall, that right there, that being, is that being who's helping you?
Amen is helping me.
Amen. Okay. I want to ask you a question. Please be patient with me. The Amen, I go back. I'm with the teacher. I come from the whole school, same school, everything. The Amen beings, You said they are persons. Like, we are the genetic expression of them?
Some of our people, yeah.
Okay. Do we have all these problems because of the Anunnaki, Enki and Enlil, those guys?
Why are you still asking me about that? I told you, Anunnaki is that's ancient nonsense. Again, the Anunnaki is just another way of saying astronaut or whatever. We're not dealing with that. We're dealing with the Amen going forward. The problems that our people have is the fact they can't move on. That's why we're having these problems. I don't mean to be short with you about that, but I'm just saying, how those people appeared or how those Amen being appeared to them people in the past is not the way they appear to us in the future, and people refuse to move on. That's the problem.
No, I don't have a problem with moving on, but don't you think that we need to know what happened? I mean, like if somebody robbed... No, we don't?
No, we don't. Oh. We already know what happened. That has nothing to do with us now. How we got here has nothing to do with where we're going.
Okay. Can we know more about the...
I'm gonna say this because, like I said, I don't mean to be short, but I'll say this because if you keep letting people go backwards and backwards and backwards, and they're not using it as a springboard to jump forward and move forward and focus on the future, then they're going to constantly keep talking. That's why I don't want to hear any more talk about the Anunnaki and the Nitir. I don't want to hear about that no more. We're dealing with Amen and the Amen race going forward. I don't care about no Enki and no Enlil and then Urta and all them characters. It's all the same thing. Like I said, it's characterizations now of what we are moving away from and going forward into.
Did you say that we have been emancipated?
Amen is emancipating the elect.
Okay. All right. So we can move forward and we can have a life. You also said that we can have our life.
Yeah, in the name of Amen, those who are moving forward collectively in the name of Amen forward for the future, yeah. All right?
All right. Thank you.
All right. One more brief question. Make it brief. 336.
Hello?
Make it brief. Yes.
Oh, you hear me?
336.
Okay. Yeah. I want to ask you a question about the Mars when you say that. I have a question. Once the 144 is all the Lord, is a few of them are like judged taken out of the 144.
What did you say about the 144,000?
Yes. Is they
what
all?
Did you say?
Is they all Lord? Like it's
they all they represent a race of lords. Lords is another way of saying judges. That's all.
Oh, okay.
All
right. And the question, one more, it's about the Mars. I was like, well, white folks are evil, human. I'm like, why would we want to extend them and keep them living on another planet? It's like they're gonna.
Ain't nobody. They're not evil. They're doing what they were supposed to do here, which was to build, because our people didn't want to do it. Our people, like I said, that animal instinct in them to survive is what you always see. When they attack our people, they see us as a threat to their survival. So, again, that's the animal instinct in them that comes out. Again, it's not an evil thing. It just is, and you have to know how to defend yourself against that. Black people want to make themselves victims and thus make everybody evil instead of understanding what you're dealing with and knowing how to deal with it accordingly. Okay? And with that, I got to go, brother. Menzak. All right, got to answer these questions. Are people beginning to mentally and physically fade away? Yes, they are. That's people in your personal life. That's people in your circle of people who are basically saying nothing. People who are basically moved by fads and things like that, moved by outer influences and whatnot that are contrived in this society. Yeah, they're fading away. When you don't stand on nothing and you have no real definitive thing that makes you up that's continuous, you're going to fade away. And that's the mass majority of people on earth, black, white, and everything in between. Where are they being faded away to? Into a lower and lesser state, right? They're going to be dissipated in the future world into a lesser and lower state, right? They will continue, but in a lower state. Who is fading them? Amen is fading them. Amen is fading them in the future for a next level of intelligence. They have to be moved out the way. Are fads meant to be faded? Yes, they are. And like I said, the vast majority of people are driven by fads, so they will fade.
Is the modern day human race fading away? Yes, they are. That's why the so-called white man is trying to combine them, consume and consolidate them and combine them into one neutral blank race for survival. And that's it. We're going to close this broadcast out in the name of Amen, by the power of Amen. In Amen we trust, in Amen we thank, and in Amen we continue forward forever. I am the intellectual Nuben Menkarayzz. This has been Mentellect Radio. We'll be back here Friday night. Good night.
Rising out the black race to the white race, out the black race to the white race. It's the Republic of Mentellect, black race to the white race. If it's hell, then it's hell us. They tried everything just to spell us. Fed us religion, gave us fake gods. Through all of that, we beat the odds. Now we coming together under one flag. Colors red, gold, and blue. Superman, Superwoman, that's me and